Okay. Hi. Well, to start off, my name is William. I am a fourth year sociology major, and I actually graduate in the next couple of weeks. I am here with my co-host Anastasia.
Hi, my name is Anastasia. I'm a first year neuroscience student. So yeah, I'm just starting. And Natalie, tell us
Hello,
about
my name is
yourself.
Natalie. I am a third year biology major. I'm not that close to graduating and not that close to starting, so I guess I'm in the middle of William and Anna, and I'm really glad to be here today.
Thank you. So this is our first episode of Highlander Speak, where all UCR students would be able to speak about a specific subject, which today we will be focusing on asthma. So to begin with, I'm sorry, I just get the frame. I just wanted to
So
get us going. Oh, I was just gonna say to
yeah,
begin with.
so let
Go ahead.
oh me. Oh, all right. So let's talk about what asthma is. And asthma is a respiratory disease. It's chronic, so it's treatable, but it's not curable. And asthma is, you know, statistics show that it affects mostly the Latino population, but it has highest mortality rate in Black population. Um, so yeah, and asthma, it there is tr ways to treat it. So do you want to talk about that, William?
Yes. So one of the reasons that I chose asthma and I thought asthma was a great topic was that I actually grew up with asthma. I was diagnosed with asthma at age 5. One of the biggest things about it was that, well, for me personally, I had severe asthma where anything could trigger me. So a pat on the back, a cold day outside, smoke from a cigarette, sometimes even just running, like a physical activity. It just impacted my life to the point where my childhood was just different than everyone else. So I always understood what it was to live with asthma. Uh, I think that it's a great topic to talk about since I feel like asthma, like you said, goes with every race. So it doesn't just focus on a specific race. Any type of race will have somebody that or will know someone that has asthma. And actually, it's a great question to ask you, Natalie. Since you were our teacher for our education class, what's the reason that you chose asthma as a topic?
That's a good question. First of all, I apologize for the light. I have all the lights in my room on, but I don't think my camera's picking up on them. But so for the course the course was originally structured to go through disparity by disparity, as in we do a week talking about race, we do a week talking about insurance, we do a week talking about whatever. Then when we decided to take a greater pediatric focus, we realized that it may be more personal to talk about instead of the disparities, to talk about the conditions and then see how those are impacted. Because it's easier to talk about a child with asthma than it is to talk about a child who's generally impacted by bad insurance. That's what I feel. Um,
Yeah.
and I had asthma growing up as well. It was exercise induced asthma. So whenever we had those PE days, I would
Oh
always have to bring
yes.
my inhaler, that kind of stuff. And then there were times where the school would not let me bring my inhaler because they said that you can't have like medication with you unless you have a doctor's note. And my dad was a doctor, so he wrote them a little note saying that I could use my inhaler, but not everyone has a doctor at home. And
I
so I feel like
I
if you're a kid who, go ahead, William.
oh no, I was just gonna say I agree. I understand that for sure. That happened to
Mhm.
me too.
I know, I think it's odd. So I felt like it's something very relevant, and it was one of the top 10 most common childhood disorders. We've got 10 weeks, so good topic.
That was for me. I was like, I remember I missed because I got sick, but I remember when I saw the topic, I was like, wow, I wish I was there. Because asthma
Oh
for me
yeah,
was, yeah,
because you
I
forgot that
actually
first week.
correct. I was very sick. I actually was sick for a whole week, and it was a respiratory disease because I
Mhm.
cannot. And I was wheezing, like tightness in my chest, and it just kind of felt like it was my asthma was contributing to that, like to me recovering, and that's the reason why asthma for me is a big thing because with asthma, you have to be careful with other respiratory diseases, kind of like COVID or RSV. You just kind of have to make
Mm,
sure that uh, you're very careful with those like within that area because your asthma can affect it, depending on your severity, obviously, but it can affect it. Now, what I wanted to talk about was symptoms because one of the things that I talked about with being sick for week one was I was having shortness of breath and tightness in my chest. And obviously, I knew it wasn't asthma, but those are actually symptoms of asthma. So, uh, chronic coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, racing heartbeat, and one that hasn't happened since I was a child, but nighttime asthma episodes, kind of like waking up and just understanding that something was wrong. Like I couldn't breathe. I could just tell that something was happening, and it just these symptoms are very minute. They're minor for some people, but for someone who's as a child who's growing up with asthma, they can be very major because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to react. You don't know. You're scared. You kind of start thinking the worst. So it just kind of like I wanted to talk about these symptoms because when you have those things with children, you always want to make sure that you talk to them, kind of keep them calm. You don't want to make them hyperventilate because that could be actually bad for you. Hyperventilating, especially, can cause you to pass out when you're having asthma. So that's something that I want to make sure that we stress out enough with these symptoms. Is there anything you want to talk like say, Anastasia or Natalie?
yeah. I have something to say. So, um, I guess I'm the only person here who does not have asthma. So, but I've seen like a lot of my classmates and friends who have asthma, and their experience. And was playing soccer all 4 years of high school, and there was this girl on my team who has asthma, and she would always have her inhaler with her. And a couple of times I witnessed how, she had like one of those episodes, so she'd have to get her inhaler. And, it's concerning. And it's definitely, especially like since, we're playing sport, you need to breathe, like a lot of physical activity. Yeah. And also, while I don't have asthma and I never got diagnosed with it, one time I had like something that made me think I have asthma because I was having a soccer practice and I fell really hard and I landed like on my chest. So I guess it sent my lungs into distress. And 30 seconds after I got up, I got this feeling that I can't breathe and I couldn't inhale any air. And it was really scary. And that makes me kind of like understand people with asthma. Like it is scary, and
It
especially in
is.
children. In children, when you're just a kid and you're living life, and then you feel like you can't breathe, like I can only imagine how terrifying it is. So
You
yeah,
know, I was just gonna
go on.
say that's a great story because Natalie, I'm not sure if you actually noticed. Anxiety attacks.
Hmm.
That's like mental,
Yes.
and I will always tell people they're like, "How? What is it to have an asthma attack?" I'm like, it's kind of like having an anxiety attack, but it's actually physical. Like how everyone's like, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe," or and you feel like you need to like gasp for air. Like that is how you feel when you're having an asthma attack. It kind of like works in conjunction to an anxiety attack. It's just obviously it's an actual reaction to our lungs. And I remember one of the things I had to do growing up, again, and there was different for everybody, but for me, I felt that I needed to figure out how to control mentally my anxiety so that I didn't make things worse. So like there's times where I had my inhaler and I just look at the time and I'll kind of time myself to see what I can do uh, while having an episode, an asthma attack. And one of the things, again, this is just me. I just wanted to make sure that if I ever lost it, if I was at an event and they needed to call paramedics. I understood it. I can breathe for 5 minutes, even though I'm still struggling to breathe. So that way, I didn't kind of panic and just kind of create something that was making it worse. And I'm not sure about you,
Mhm.
Natalie. I'm not sure if you did something like that.
The only situation where I would have like an exacerbation of symptoms would be traveling. And so for me, so in my experience, whenever my family would go to Egypt, I would get like like really bad. It would become very severe. And I remember when I was like 11 or 12, I woke up one morning like panicking because I thought I was dying. I was a little bit dramatic.
You know,
But I couldn't breathe at all. And I was really scared. And I think I was scared enough to scare my mom. And she flew downstairs to the pharmacy. We had a pharmacy downstairs, luckily, to buy an inhaler for me. But like as a kid, I didn't really experience a lot of anxiety attacks, thankfully. That wasn't something I struggled with a lot in my younger years. So I didn't really see an interplay. As I got older, asthma became less of a concern. And so there was never a chance for kind of um the two to intersect. But that is definitely something that we see. And I actually like that
yes.
take. I think that's something I can integrate into the classwork in the future.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Also, one thing I have to say, with the experience that I mentioned before, whenever I was able to breathe again, I actually got like a panic attack. So I started hyperventilating. So yeah, so it definitely like, especially from maybe even experiencing something like that for the first time, like it's scary. So it also engages like that mental response of like panic or anxiety. So like you said.
uh, so one of the things that we wanted to also bring up was triggers. Now, triggers is basically things that can cause an asthma attack or an asthma episode. You actually brought up the exercise, which is physical activity. For me, I kind of just was pretty bad with everything. So the only thing I didn't have was allergies to like food, food cause allergies. But everything else, I had pollen allergy and pollen-induced asthma, smoking, exercise, stress. I am actually allergic to cats, so cats kind of get me wheezing even now. So that is, which is funny because my wife, she loves cats, and we kind of
Oh,
agreed
that's
that if
so
we ever,
hard.
yeah, well, like if we ever get a cat, it'll probably have to be a hairless cat. And she's like, no, they're ugly. I'm like, I know, I know they are.
I can't
So
blame her. I know exactly where she's coming from because I'm the same way.
yeah, and it's again, I just again, it's living with it and kind of learning how to be be myself and be me with asthma. Um, I feel like everyone has their story, and for me, asthma is one of the ones that I can tell because I was actually teased for having asthma growing up. Uh, and then to this day, actually, my siblings do that because they always said that I avoided sports when I was a kid because I always use asthma as my excuse. And I'm like, look, it's just hard to breathe. It's not something I choose. But
I
I
know.
got I actually got to play as I got older, and like you, I actually used an inhaler beforehand. I was able to. I think what the doctor has said was that my lungs weren't developed enough, and that once I
Mm.
hit a certain age, my lungs would kind of grow a little bit more, which would kind of let me breathe in more and allow me to do physical activities. So physical activities, I grew out of it, but I still have asthma with pollen and the change of weather and pets. So I'll take whatever I get. I'll take anything I have. Uh, is there anything you want to say, Anastasia, in regards to that, or you want me to go to the next slide?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on it because I don't really have
Okay.
experiences like that. Unless Natalie,
Actually,
Natalie,
oh, go
Hey
ahead.
guys, no, I think you guys covered it
just
really
the
well.
physical.
Pardon?
I talked about COVID, I think, during one of our discussions. I think it probably was asthma. Because of my asthma, when I first contracted COVID in 2020, I was actually hospitalized. and I
Oh, really? I think
contracted.
you did mention that.
Oh,
I think you
Yeah,
did
I
mention that.
contracted pneumonia. So
Oh,
it was scary. And this is I believe it was like June 2020. So this is when there's no
so
information besides
early.
you might get intubated. Oh my God, it was so stressful. But the nurses were nice, and they would just kind of they would make sure that I was updated. And they're like, "You're fine. Your heartbeat, your oxygen level is high, so you don't have to worry about being intubated. Your age is fine. You don't have to worry about being intubated." And they just kind of made sure that they treated my pneumonia. But I was positive for almost a month because of the fact that I had asthma and my body was
hmm.
still fighting it. So
I'm so sorry to hear that it escalated to that degree. And I'm sure I speak for myself and Anna when I say we're really glad that you're okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
COVID-19 can really easily escalate to pneumonia because the virus targets
yes,
mostly I think we all know that it targets mostly the respiratory system.
yes.
And so it will naturally develop pneumonia if there's nothing stopping its way. And the presence of asthma just makes it easier for it to proliferate. So that's why
Way
they're kind of
easier.
comorbid. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry to hear about that.
No worries. Again, this is why I chose asthma. I feel like we can all talk about it and have a great conversation. Because I myself I'm one that grew up with asthma, so I felt like this was perfect. And I didn't even know you had asthma, Natalie. That was
Yeah.
surprising to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so can you guys see the pictures or because on mine
Yeah.
obviously I have I have the okay,
I can see
so
everything.
this okay, perfect. So one of the things that it was weird to see it again growing up because I hadn't seen it since I was a child was the spirometer, which is the machine you use to test how far you can breathe out. No, sorry, breathe in. So that one was nostalgic for me actually because growing up with asthma as a kid, I remember the doctors were like they would like set a level. They're like, you have to get to this level before you can be. And I used to be hospitalized a lot, so they're like, you have to get to this level before we can let you out. And every day, just breathe in and try to like get as much air as I could. And the spirometer, again as a child, I didn't understand why, but it was just to make sure that my lung functions were tolerable enough where I can go back out to the world and not have to be hospitalized again. The peak flow, which was kind of like that one, determine how hard I can breathe. So it's kind of like again lung functions, and they just wanted to see like my breathing, how I can breathe while I'm in the hospital. If they still needed to treat my asthma, if I needed to be in with a nebulizer, or if they needed to give me any steroids, which is why I put this visual up. I again have been living with asthma. I actually have my two inhalers. This was a steroid inhaler, so this one helps out with my lung. I actually got this when I caught COVID.
Oh,
So I still
really?
have, yes. So I was given steroids just to help with my lung function, and
Mm.
I was given antibiotics to help with the pneumonia actually. So that's
Oh.
yeah, it was it was interesting. It was an interesting year, and the nebulizer. I got lucky this time. I didn't have to use one, which is the bottom picture. The bottom picture that was a treatment. And the
Mm.
nebulizer, that I actually, when I was a child, I had to use it for 30 minutes a day, almost for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that's how
That
bad my
thing.
asthma was. Yeah,
Yeah,
What
that
was
the
that
thing
one
on
in?
with
the
the mask.
bottom. Yeah, my mom had pneumonia a couple of years back, and it was pretty bad. But she doesn't have asthma. She just I don't know, got pneumonia. But yeah, that thing is very familiar to me because she was like breathing in it like all day, and yeah.
Yes.
Oh man, that's a lot. I'm sorry to hear about that, you guys. That sounds a little bit stressful. How
Uh,
how often did you have to use the nebulizer, William? You said it was to like when would you use it? I know a lot of kids use it before bed. Was that the
it's
case for you
so
too?
it was once a day at any time. So I they usually did it almost closer to sunset because I had school. So
Mm,
like closer to sunset, I did it for 30 minutes. It was every day, and I had to do it for 2 years because they just wanted
mm,
to stabilize my how bad my severity of the asthma. So I had severe sorry, I have a paper because I'm trying to remember the name, severe persistent, which was
okay.
kind of like it was one of like a really bad uh uh, what's it called? Classification of asthma where like you could literally just, hey buddy, and like tap my back and I'm wheezing. Like I need my inhaler.
Oh, that's a
Yeah,
lot,
so
dude.
it was bad. But again, I somehow once I hit a certain age, my lungs developed and I grew out of most of it. Is just I guess my body got used to like pollen and the change of weather and uh pets that I still get triggered by that, but it's very minute compared to how it used to be. Like it's night and day.
I'm glad. I'm glad that it's gotten better. And thankfully that we're all living in an age where this kind of technology is available. So hopefully just get and continues to get better and we can find a way that kids don't really need to take time out of their day to sit with the medication and the nebulizer. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was my when I look back, that was kind of like my saving grace because of that, I was able to actually have like good teenage years where I was able to go play and do extracurricular activities. Because imagine if I couldn't have any treatment, I don't know how I would have been as a teenager. I probably would have been
Mm,
very fragile. So for me,
I'm so
that
glad.
was yeah. Because I actually played a
Yeah,
soccer
I'm also
team.
glad that that worked. Oh, I play soccer too.
Yeah,
That's
I
fun.
love soccer, and it was interesting because I remember the doctor told me, "Okay, you can run now." And have you seen Forrest Gump? Remember that scene where he's like, they're like, "Run, Forrest,"
Yes.
and he
Yes,
breaks
yes.
the yes. So that's how I felt. I felt free, and I'm like, what's the one sport I can do that runs a lot? And I'm like, soccer. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, in our class, we're focusing about health disparities, and I'm gonna just pull up a definition of it. And health disparities are preventable differences in the burden of disease, injury, violence, or opportunities to achieve optimal health that are experienced by socially disadvantaged populations. So basically, what that means, right, is you can have the same disease, but based on how your life is, you may have, more or less like opportunities or ways to get better. And that affects, different populations differently. So, yeah. Natalie, do you have anything to say about health disparities?
Well, I have so much to say that there's actually a whole class that I teach that's about health disparities. I'm just kidding. There's actually two classes. I'm going to be teaching a second class on this stuff come fall. Too bad that William will be have been graduated onto better things.
I actually, I'm trying to be a social worker, so this would be a perfect topic to bring up.
Oh, I'm so glad we're very glad to have you in the class. But yeah, anxieties in general, and the teacher did touch on this. Generally, things that are caused by failures in the healthcare system, social structure. They're things that can't entirely be equated to genetics. So we wouldn't say that, for example, some African American communities um, having like a higher rates of prostate cancer is a health inequity. But we could say that giving them a limiting their access to healthcare would be a health inequity. And there are some things that are naturally catalyzed by those genetic differences. For example, a lot of medications tested on white communities and largely groups of Caucasian males, just because this is a more convenient sample community for researchers. And women are usually underrepresented in medication testing, and so are African Americans. And that's because there is a reason. The menstrual cycle for women makes their response to
Okay.
medication a little bit more complex, which a researcher isn't really interested in. They want to get straight results. And then African American communities, the way that usually if they're African or Middle Eastern, the ways that their bodies distribute the medication is more broad spectrum than Caucasian communities. So you might give a 25-year-old African American man and a 25-year-old Caucasian man the same exact medication, and one would respond completely differently than the other just because of the way his body distributes medication. And that adds another layer of complexity. The FDA has now mandated that these medical testings have to have like these very inclusive groups, but it's something we're still working towards. And yeah, there's a long road to go in introducing equity to not only medication, but also the infrastructure itself, which is what we talk about all the time.
Would you say that uh, based on like the community also? So one of the things that we found out was that most minorities live in uh, areas that kind of would affect their health. So like African Americans and Hispanics would live closer to the factories or chemical plants compared to non-black or non-Hispanic races. So would you say that also where the community is, that would also affect where the health, what kind of healthcare they will get?
Absolutely. I do think that's a factor. Of course, there are so many changes. We have a lot of white, like a large Caucasian community in areas around Las Vegas that experience the same or even worse conditions than some of their African American or Hispanic community members. But there is a pretty significant correlation between socioeconomic status and race. And usually, along with, we see a lot of African American communities in areas that have poor ventilation, old buildings, a lot of mold or asbestos might be in the walls as well in these older communities. And then we see some, oftentimes it may be Caucasian, but there are other exceptions. We do see a lot of these Asian immigrants that also are able to get into these higher economic strati, which enables them to live in better communities and kind of excludes them from some of the environmentally catalyzed issues that might come up. But we see this a lot with Hispanic communities as well, them being kind of almost redlined into these poorer areas with worse healthcare, with bad air ventilation, and that can kind of make asthma so much worse. And like you mentioned, we see a lot more minorities living closer to areas of industry like factories.
Yeah.
And this can really impact a child's health.
And another thing that, having a lower socioeconomic status that affects, health disparities is lack of access to insurance. So let's talk about that.
Yes. So since we only have 6 minutes left, one of the things I wanted to focus on was insurance, but rather what to look for, which insurance can cover it. I was thinking maybe we could show what to look for in insurances. So give me one moment here. I found this website. It's allergyasthmanetwork.org, which kind of helps you break down the importance of insurance and kind of what to focus on when looking at insurance. So one of the things that it talks about is high deductibles. Uh, Basically, based on the type of insurance you get, if you pay the premium insurance, you'll get lower deductibles, lower copays. Uh, you want to make sure that when you're choosing insurance, if you have someone that has a predetermined health history, so like for me is asthma, we need to make sure that certain things are covered. So like skin prick allergy tests, allergy blood tests, stuff like that. That's covered through your insurance. Um, you need to understand what premiums are, what cost shares are, provider networks. So provider networks kind of like Kaiser Permanente or Blue Cross. We just want to make sure that whoever is looking for insurance understands that there's different kinds. So you have Medicare, Medicaid, and even with that, there's subsections of that where some of them will have you pay co-pays compared to others. and you need to understand what's covered and what's not. I know that there's such a thing called dual coverage, where some people qualify for Medicare and Medicaid while also having coverage themselves, which can help pay for their premium costs and kind of help cover their expenses for medicine or even surgeries. There's this display that we have. Uh, so you want to always think about out-of-pocket expenses. You want to think about low or no deductible coverages versus high deductible coverages. You want to see what's covered, and so excuse me, I'm just kind of like trying to get my words out. You want to make sure you understand how much you're going to be paying monthly versus again what you're going to be paying out of your pocket costs. So like medicine, surgery, doctor's visits. So all that's co-pays. But besides your premium, which is kind of like when you're paying monthly to have insurance. Another thing that I wanted to show, because we are in California, can you guys see the website? Is it showing?
It's loading now.
It's loading. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
It's
loading.
this one's called Asthma Management Academy. It's for California. This is kind of a website created to help you manage with your asthma. It gives you knowledge of what is asthma, how to what you need to understand for asthma, and it gives you training. So what to do when in the case of episode, what to look for community like for I'm sorry, I'm having a loss for words, but this is kind of gonna help you break down what to do when you find out you have asthma, or what to look for with doctors, with medicine, and kind of just help you understand what asthma is. Uh, we have 2 minutes left, so is there anything else we'd like to talk about before?
I just want to say that it's so great that there are so many things out there to uh what do you call it? You know, like so much information about it, how to manage and stuff that it's all up on the internet. I think that's pretty great. But it's still a very interesting thing that, asthma doesn't even have like a definition other than the list of the symptoms. So
And
Yeah.
again, I think there's great that we actually have some kind of information out there. We hope that we make a difference. And hopefully there's another podcast, either with us or a different group, but let's hope that we're the beginning group for something major. Thank you again,
Yeah.
Natalie.
Of course, I'm wishing this podcast the best of luck. I'd love to see it get off the ground. And I'm so appreciative that you guys invited me here today. Thank you guys so much, and I am very much looking forward to you guys sharing this with the rest of the class.
Thank you.
All right,
thank you,
thanks.
Natalie, for joining
Uh,
us.
Of
Thank
course, thank you
you.
guys.
bye.
I'll see you
Thank you.
2 weeks from now.
Bye.
Bye,
Yes.